I'm Julia, 34, a corporate attorney at one of Boston's top firms. My life used to be perfect, successful career, beautiful home in an upscale neighborhood, and what I thought was a loving marriage to my law school sweetheart, Derek. Until I discovered the ultimate betrayal, my husband having an affair with my younger sister, Amanda. Now I'm standing in a courtroom facing not just them, but my own parents who are demanding I financially support the child from their affair. Little did they know I came prepared. If you're watching this right now, let me know where you're viewing from and hit that subscribe button for more stories about overcoming betrayal in ways you never expected. I met Derek during our second year of law school at Boston University. I was top of our class, focused entirely on building my career. He was charming, brilliant, and persistent in his pursuit. At first, I resisted his advances, convinced relationships would distract me from my academic goals. But Derek had this way of breaking through my defenses with thoughtful gestures. Coffee waiting on my desk before early morning classes, detailed notes when I missed lectures for mock trial competitions, and patience when I needed to study instead of going on dates. "You can have both, Julia," he would say. "A brilliant career and a relationship. You don't have to choose." After 6 months of friendship that gradually evolved into something more, I finally agreed to officially date him. We became the power couple of our law school class, pushing each other to excel, staying up late, quizzing each other on case law, and planning our futures together. By graduation, we had job offers at competing firms and an engagement ring on my finger. Our wedding was small but elegant, attended by close friends and family, including my younger sister, Amanda. Amanda and I had always had a complicated relationship. 3 years my junior, she grew up in my shadow, or at least that's how my parents framed it. While I was winning academic competitions and securing scholarships, Amanda struggled in school but excelled socially. She was the beautiful one, the charming one, while I was the serious achiever. "Your sister needs more attention," my mother would say. "You're so independent, Julia, but Amanda needs guidance." I never resented my sister, though I noticed the different standards our parents set. They celebrated my achievements with quiet nods, while praising Amanda's C+ grades with dinner celebrations. Still, Amanda and I maintained a cordial relationship. She was my maid of honor, giving a speech about how she'd always looked up to her big sister. After the wedding, Derek and I settled into our careers and purchased a beautiful colonial in Brookline, an upscale Boston suburb. Our professional lives flourished. I made junior partner at my firm in record time, specializing in corporate law. Derek built a reputation in family law, ironically enough. We worked long hours but always made time for each other. Weekend brunches, summer vacations to the Cape holiday parties where we dazzled colleagues with our seemingly perfect union. 3 years into our marriage, we decided to start trying for a family. I had just turned 30 and felt established enough in my career to take on motherhood. We were excited, imagining a nursery in our spare bedroom, debating names and planning how we'd balance parenthood with our careers. But months passed without a pregnancy. Then a year. Medical tests revealed I had endometriosis, a condition that can complicate conception. The doctor recommended we try IVF. The news was devastating, but Derek seemed supportive, holding my hand during appointments and assuring me we would become parents one way or another. IVF was expensive, far more than we'd anticipated. Insurance covered only a portion, leaving us to finance the rest. I took on additional clients and worked weekends to cover the mounting medical bills, while Derek maintained his regular schedule, claiming he needed to stay balanced for both our sakes. "I'll handle the financial part," I told him. "You just be there for the emotional support." He agreed readily, and I didn't question it at the time. I was too focused on our goal of becoming parents. We went through 3 rounds of IVF over 2 years. Each failure left me more emotionally drained and physically exhausted. Derek's support seemed to wane with each unsuccessful attempt. He attended fewer appointments, asked fewer questions, showed less interest in the process. "Maybe we should take a break," he suggested after our 3rd failed round. "Focus on us for a while." I agreed, thinking we needed time to reconnect as a couple. Looking back, I should have seen the signs: the late nights at the office, the weekend work emergencies, the decreased intimacy, the secretive phone habits. But I was so caught up in my own disappointment and professional obligations that I missed the red flags waving right in front of me. Amanda had moved back to Boston around this time after a failed attempt at an acting career in Los Angeles. She was staying with our parents temporarily and looking for work. I helped her land a receptionist position at a law firm where I had connections, not Derek's firm, but one where he had several close colleagues. I thought I was being a supportive sister, unaware I was actually setting the stage for my own heartbreak. The discovery happened on a Tuesday in April. I was supposed to be in New York until Thursday for a client meeting, but we wrapped up early and I decided to surprise Derek by coming home. I stopped for flowers and his favorite takeout, imagining a romantic evening reconnecting. Our house was quiet when I entered, but something felt off immediately. There was an unfamiliar scent in the air, a perfume I didn't recognize. In the living room, I found a woman's earring on the sofa cushion. My stomach dropped, but I tried to rationalize it. Perhaps it belonged to a client Derek sometimes met with clients at our home when they needed discretion. Then I heard the shower running upstairs. I set down the food and flowers and slowly climbed the steps, each one feeling heavier than the last. Our bedroom door was ajar, and I could see clothes strewn across the floor. Women's clothes that weren't mine. I stood frozen, unable to move closer but unable to leave. The shower turned off. I heard laughter. Familiar laughter. The bathroom door opened, and out stepped my sister Amanda, wrapped in my bathrobe, her hair wet. She froze when she saw me. "Julia, you're supposed to be in New York." Her voice was high-pitched, panicked. Before I could respond, Derek emerged from the bathroom, a towel around his waist, his expression changing from relaxed to shocked when he saw me. "What is this?" I whispered, though I already knew. "Julia, we can explain." Derek started approaching me with his hands raised as if calming a frightened animal. I backed away. "How long?" They exchanged glances. Neither answered. "How long?" I screamed, my composure shattering. 6 months, Amanda finally said, her voice small. "It just happened, Jules. We never meant to hurt you." I laughed bitterly. "Never meant to hurt me. You're having an affair with my husband in my house, using my shower, wearing my robe, and you never meant to hurt me." Derek tried to touch my arm. I recoiled. "Julia, please. Let's talk about this rationally. You and I have been growing apart for years. The fertility treatments, your focus on work." "Don't you dare blame this on me," I hissed. "Don't you dare." I turned to leave, but something made me grab Derek's phone from the nightstand. He lunged for it, confirming my suspicion that I'd find evidence there. His passcode hadn't changed since we got married. I opened his messages and found hundreds between him and Amanda dating back nearly a year. Photos, plans, declarations of love. Messages sent while I was asleep beside him. Messages sent during my IVF appointments. "You did this while I was trying to have your baby." I looked up at him. My vision blurred with tears. Derek's expression hardened. "Amanda can give me what you couldn't." The words hit me like a physical blow. I looked at Amanda, who at least had the decency to look ashamed. "Jules," she started. "I'm pregnant." The room spun. I grabbed the doorframe to steady myself. 2 months, she added quietly. "It's Derek's." I don't remember much after that revelation. I know I threw Derek's phone against the wall. I know I packed a bag with shaking hands while they both tried to talk to me. I remember Amanda crying, saying they hadn't planned for this to happen. I remember Derek saying maybe this was for the best, that we could all be honest now. I left without looking back, checked into a hotel downtown, and turned off my phone. For 3 days, I barely ate or slept. I moved mechanically, calling in sick to work for the first time in my career, staring at walls and trying to process how my life had imploded so completely. On the 4th day, I turned my phone back on and found dozens of missed calls and messages, from Derek, from Amanda, and surprisingly from my parents. I wasn't ready to talk to Derek or Amanda, but I thought my parents would be my refuge. I called them expecting sympathy and support. I couldn't have been more wrong. "Julia, we need to discuss this situation rationally," my father said after I poured out my heartbreak over the phone. "Situation, Dad, my husband is having a baby with my sister." "This isn't a situation, it's a betrayal. These things happen in marriages," my mother chimed in from the extension. "People grow apart. The important thing now is how we move forward as a family." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Move forward. There is no moving forward from this. "Julia, you've always been so dramatic," my mother sighed. "Amanda made a mistake, yes, but she's having a baby now. Your niece or nephew. Family has to come first. Family, I laughed bitterly. Is that what you call what they did to me? We'd like you to come to dinner tomorrow, my father said, ignoring my question. We need to talk about next steps, all of us together. All of us. You don't mean… Yes, Derek and Amanda will be there. We've all been worried about you. I wanted to scream, but instead I agreed to the dinner, thinking perhaps I could make them understand the magnitude of what had happened. Perhaps in person, they would see my pain and stand by me. The next evening, I arrived at my parents' suburban home, the same house where Amanda and I had grown up. I'd taken extra care with my appearance, applying makeup to hide the dark circles under my eyes, dressing in a tailored suit that made me feel armored. My mother opened the door. "Julia, you look tired," she said by way of greeting. The dining room table was set for 5. Derek and Amanda were already seated side by side, their hands linked on the tabletop. Amanda's eyes were red, but Derek looked composed, even confident. My father sat at the head of the table reviewing some papers. No one stood when I entered. No one rushed to hug me or ask how I was coping. I stood frozen in the doorway, realizing this wasn't a family dinner. It was an ambush. "Sit down, Julia," my father directed, pointing to the empty chair across from Derek and Amanda. "We have a lot to discuss." I sat mechanically, feeling like I'd entered an alternate reality. My mother placed a casserole on the table and began serving as if this were a normal family meal. "We've been talking about the situation," she said, spooning food onto plates. "Have you…" My voice sounded distant even to myself. "Yes," my father took over. "And we think there's a path forward that works for everyone." Derek cleared his throat. "Julia, I never wanted to hurt you, but Amanda and I have real feelings for each other. We want to build a life together, especially now with the baby coming. So what do you want from me, my blessing?" I asked, unable to touch the food in front of me. "We want you to accept the situation," my mother said. "For family unity." Amanda spoke for the first time. "Jules, I know you hate me right now, but this baby will be your niece or nephew. Don't you want to be in their life?" I stared at her, at the slight rounding of her belly, just visible beneath her loose top. My sister. My baby sister, who had been in my wedding, who had helped me pick out the house where she later slept with my husband. "When did you all know about this?" I asked quietly. A silence fell over the table. My parents exchanged glances. "Julia," my father began cautiously. "How long have you known?" I pressed. "A few months," my mother admitted. Amanda came to us confused about her feelings for Derek. We encouraged her to think carefully about her actions, but not to stop, not to consider her sister's feelings, not to respect my marriage. My voice rose with each question. "These things aren't always black and white," my father said. "Derek and Amanda connected during a difficult time. You were so focused on the fertility treatments and work, so this is my fault." I stood up my chair, scraping loudly against the floor. "No one is saying that," Derek interjected smoothly. "But Julia, you and I both know our marriage hasn't been happy for a long time. I thought we were going through a rough patch while dealing with infertility. I didn't realize that entitled you to sleep with my sister." "Julia, please sit down," my mother urged. "People are trying to eat." I remained standing. "What exactly is this path forward you've all decided on behind my back?" Derek straightened in his chair. "I want a divorce, Julia. Amanda and I want to get married before the baby comes." Though I had expected this hearing, it stated so plainly, still felt like a knife to the chest. "We think it's for the best," my father added. "A clean break. You can focus on your career, which has always been your priority anyway." I looked at each of their faces. My father's practical detachment, my mother's misplaced concern, Amanda's guilty but expectant expression, Derek's calculated determination. They had already decided my future without me, just as they had conspired behind my back. "I see," I said finally. "You've all got it figured out." I turned and walked toward the door. "Julia, don't be childish," my mother called after me. "Come back and discuss this properly." I paused at the doorway and looked back at them. "There's nothing to discuss. You've made your choices. Now I'll make mine." I left that house knowing I was completely alone in this fight. My husband, my sister, my parents, everyone who should have been in my corner had betrayed me. But as I drove away through the tears and pain, a strange calm began to settle over me. If they could all conspire against me, then I owed them nothing. Not my forgiveness, not my cooperation, and certainly not my submission to their plan. Little did I know their betrayal was just beginning. 2 weeks after the disastrous family dinner, I received divorce papers at my office. My assistant placed them on my desk with an apologetic look, clearly aware of their contents. News of my situation had begun spreading through Boston's legal community, and I could feel colleagues' pitying glances and hushed conversations that stopped when I entered rooms. I waited until after hours to open the envelope, pouring myself a generous glass of whiskey from the bottle I now kept in my desk drawer. The legal document was standard, citing irreconcilable differences as the grounds for divorce. But the attached settlement proposal was breathtaking in its audacity. Derek wanted half of everything, not just assets acquired during our marriage, which was fair under Massachusetts law, but half of my personal savings from before our marriage, half of an inheritance from my grandmother that had been specifically left to me, and half of my partnership stake in the firm that I'd earned through years of 80-hour work weeks. I called him immediately. "Are you serious with this proposal?" I asked when he answered. "It's fair, Julia," he replied calmly. "I supported your career throughout our marriage by sleeping with my sister while I worked to pay for our fertility treatments. Don't be crude. Amanda and I are trying to build a stable future for our child." "With my money," I said flatly. "With what I'm legally entitled to as your spouse of 7 years," he corrected. I hung up and called my firm's top divorce attorney, only to discover she had a conflict of interest. Derek had already consulted with her, making her ineligible to represent me. In fact, he had apparently consulted with the top 5 divorce attorneys in Boston, effectively conflicting them all out of representing me. The next blow came when I tried to access our joint savings account to hire an outside attorney. The account had been emptied, all $187,000 gone. When I called the bank in a panic, they informed me that Derek had withdrawn the funds the day after I discovered the affair, well before he served me with divorce papers. That night I returned to the condo I had rented after moving out of our house, only to find movers loading furniture into a truck. Amanda was directing them, pointing at items and checking off a list. "What are you doing?" I demanded, blocking the doorway. Amanda looked up, startled. "Julia, Derek said you wouldn't be home. This isn't Derek's home anymore. He chose to leave when he chose you. Actually," she said, her confidence returning, "the house is joint property and Derek said I could take what we need for our new place." "You moved into my house with my husband." "It's Derek's house too," she replied defensively. "And yes, temporarily, until the divorce is settled and we find our own place." I noticed she was wearing a diamond ring on her left hand. Not my engagement ring, thankfully, but a new one. Large, ostentatious, and no doubt expensive. "Nice rock," I commented. "I'm guessing that came from our joint account too." She flushed but lifted her chin defiantly. "Derek wants me to have nice things." "I'm sure he does. Now get out of my condo before I call the police and report a burglary." Derek said, "Derek doesn't own this place. It's a rental in my name only. Get out." She left with the movers, but not before they had already loaded several valuable pieces of furniture and art that Derek and I had purchased together. I changed the locks that night. The following week brought the most shocking development yet. I was served with another set of legal papers, not divorce-related this time, but a petition regarding child support. Derek, Amanda, and my parents had jointly filed a motion asking the court to order me to financially support Amanda's unborn child once it was born. Their argument was based on an obscure legal theory that as the higher-earning spouse who had been pursuing fertility treatments, I had an established interest in becoming a parent and therefore had a financial responsibility toward my niece or nephew. It was ludicrous, legally unsound, and clearly designed to punish me for not cooperating with their plan. But it would require a legal defense, more attorneys' fees, and the humiliation of fighting my entire family in court. I called the one person I thought might still be in my corner, my former law professor, Gabrielle Santos, who had become a mentor over the years. She listened to my story without interruption, then said simply, "You need Sophia Jackson." Sophia was a former prosecutor who now specialized in complex, high-conflict divorces. Her reputation was fearsome. She was known for being relentless, thorough, and uncompromising. She also had no connections to Derek or his firm. At our first meeting, Sophia listened to my story, reviewed the paperwork I'd received, and shook her head in disgust. "This child support petition is garbage," she said bluntly. "No judge would seriously entertain it. But they know that. This isn't about winning in court. It's about draining your resources and breaking you down until you agree to their terms. So what do? We fight fire with fire," she said, her eyes gleaming with determination. "They want to play dirty. We can play dirty too, but by the book. I need you to tell me everything about Derek and Amanda, their habits, their patterns, their weaknesses, and I mean everything." As we developed our strategy, another complication arose at work. Several of my colleagues, friends of Derek, began questioning my judgment on cases, suggesting I was emotionally compromised due to my personal situation. One partner even suggested I take a leave of absence. The firm that had been my professional home for years was suddenly becoming hostile territory. After a particularly difficult meeting where my competence was openly questioned, I requested medical leave, which was granted with obvious relief from the management committee. I hated giving ground, but Sophia convinced me it was strategic. "Focus on the divorce and this ridiculous support petition," she advised. "Once those are resolved in your favor, you can decide whether you want to return to the firm or start fresh elsewhere." With my professional identity temporarily on hold, I threw myself into building our case. But the isolation was taking its toll. Friends from our shared social circle had largely sided with Derek, believing his narrative that I was a cold, career-obsessed wife who had driven him away. Some even suggested I should be grateful that at least the baby was staying in the family. At my lowest point, sitting alone in my rented condo surrounded by legal papers, I contemplated ending it all. The thought of swallowing the entire bottle of sleeping pills my doctor had prescribed was disturbingly tempting. What was left to fight for? My marriage was over, my family had betrayed me, my career was in jeopardy, and the child I had desperately wanted would be born to my sister and husband instead. That night I came closer than I cared to admit to giving up. But as I sat with the pills in my hand, my phone rang. It was an unknown number and I almost didn't answer. When I did, the voice on the other end changed everything. "Julia, it's Michael Reeves. From Georgetown undergrad. I just heard about what happened through the alumni network. I'm in Boston now working as a private investigator. I think I might be able to help you." I remembered Michael from college, a quiet, observant guy who had briefly dated my roommate. He had gone on to work for the FBI before starting his own private investigation firm specializing in financial fraud. We met at a quiet coffee shop the following day. "Your husband has made some enemies over the years," Michael explained after we exchanged awkward greetings. "When your situation started circulating in legal circles, someone who has a grudge against Derek contacted me thinking I might know you from our college days." "What kind of enemies? And what kind of grudge?" I asked, both curious and cautious. Derek represented a client in a divorce a few years ago, a wealthy tech entrepreneur. He allegedly advised his client on hiding assets from the wife. When those assets were eventually discovered, the judge sanctioned both the client and Derek. The case was quietly settled to avoid further publicity, but the wife never forgot how Derek helped her ex-husband try to defraud her. "And she contacted you about me," Michael nodded. "She suggested I look into Derek's finances. She thought there might be a pattern." Hope flickered inside me for the first time in weeks. "Can you do that legally? I mean, there are legal ways to investigate financial discrepancies, especially if we work with your divorce attorney," Michael assured me. "I'm not suggesting anything unethical, just thorough due diligence." I introduced Michael to Sophia, and they immediately developed a rapport, both sharing a distaste for men who used legal maneuvering to exploit women. Together, they developed a plan to investigate not only Derek's finances, but also any potential collusion between him and my family. Over the next month, Michael uncovered a series of disturbing findings. Derek had been siphoning money from our joint accounts into a separate account for over a year, long before the affair with Amanda came to light. He had also made several large cash withdrawals around the times Amanda claimed they began seeing each other. More damning still, property records revealed that Derek had purchased a small vacation home in Vermont 6 months earlier, placing it in an LLC registered solely in his name. The down payment had come from our joint savings, the savings I had contributed extra to while paying for fertility treatments. But the most shocking discovery came when Michael followed the money trail from the empty joint account. A significant portion had been invested in a new business, a boutique law firm specializing in family law, with both Derek and Amanda listed as partners, despite Amanda having no legal training whatsoever. They were planning this for a long time, Sophia said grimly as we reviewed the evidence. The affair, the baby, the business, this wasn't some spontaneous passion. This was calculated. But why involve my parents? I wondered. What do they gain from supporting Derek and Amanda? Michael had an answer for that too. Your father's construction company has been struggling for years. Did you know that? I shook my head. My father had always been private about his business dealings. Well, it turns out there's a substantial loan from an LLC connected to Derek's new firm to your father's company, $300,000 transferred 2 months ago. He bought my parents, I whispered, the final piece falling into place. As we built our case, I also found personal strength through unexpected channels. Sophia connected me with a support group for women going through high-conflict divorces. For the first time, I was surrounded by people who truly understood my pain and didn't judge my anger. These weekly meetings became my lifeline. I also started seeing Dr. Larson, a therapist, who specialized in betrayal trauma. She helped me process not just Derek and Amanda's betrayal, but the lifelong pattern of my parents prioritizing my sister's needs and desires over mine. What they did isn't about your worth, Dr. Larson emphasized in one particularly powerful session. Their choices reflect their character, not yours. Slowly, I began to rebuild myself. I started running every morning, the physical exertion helping to burn off my anger. I reconnected with friends from college and law school who weren't part of the Boston legal scene. And I began to envision a future beyond this trauma, a future where I defined success and happiness on my own terms. As the court date for both the divorce proceedings and the ridiculous child support petition approached, Sophia and I prepared meticulously. We had amassed substantial evidence of Derek's financial misconduct, but we held it back, waiting for the right moment to reveal the full extent of his betrayal. 2 days before the court date, Michael brought us the final piece of evidence, emails between Derek and Amanda dating back 18 months long before our last round of IVF, discussing their plan to start a life together using my financial resources. I'll make sure Julia keeps investing in the fertility treatments, Derek had written. It keeps her distracted and drains her savings. By the time we're ready to make our move, she'll be emotionally and financially exhausted. Reading those words, seeing the calculated cruelty laid bare, I finally let go of any lingering doubt or guilt. This wasn't my fault. I hadn't driven Derek away or failed as a wife. I had been targeted, used, and betrayed by the people I trusted most. The morning of the court hearing, I dressed carefully in a conservative navy suit, my hair pulled back in a sleek bun. I looked like exactly what I was, a successful professional woman who had been wronged but refused to be broken. When I walked into the courtroom, Derek, Amanda, and my parents were already seated on the opposite side. Amanda's pregnancy was now visibly showing at 5 months. She wore a floral dress that emphasized her condition, while Derek had his arm protectively around her shoulders. My parents sat stiffly beside them, my father checking his watch repeatedly, my mother clutching her handbag with white knuckles. As we took our places, Amanda leaned over to whisper something to Derek, then looked at me with a smirk. The message was clear: she thought she had won. Little did she know I was about to change the game entirely. The courtroom fell silent as Judge Eleanor Mercer entered and took her seat. She was known for her no-nonsense approach and intolerance for legal games, which is why Sophia had requested her specifically for our case. We're here on 2 related matters, Judge Mercer began, reviewing the files before her. The divorce petition of Derek Williams versus Julia Williams, and the unusual child support petition regarding an unborn child. I'll hear the divorce matter first, but I understand there's a connection between these cases. Derek's attorney, Richard Townsend, rose first. He was a well-known divorce lawyer who specialized in representing wealthy men and had a reputation for aggressive tactics. Your Honor, this should be a straightforward matter. Mr. Williams is seeking an equitable division of marital assets and a swift resolution so both parties can move forward with their lives. Judge Mercer raised an eyebrow. And the child support petition. There's nothing straightforward about asking a woman to financially support her estranged husband's child with her sister. I've never seen such a petition in my 30 years on the bench. It's an unusual situation that requires novel legal approaches. Townsend replied smoothly. We'll address that separately, but the matters are connected because they speak to Mrs. Williams' character and conduct during the marriage. Sophia stood. Your Honor, we strongly disagree with opposing counsel's characterization. In fact, we have substantial evidence that Mr. Williams engaged in systematic financial fraud throughout the marriage, culminating in the emptying of joint accounts and misappropriation of marital assets. That's absurd, Townsend interrupted. Mr. Williams made normal withdrawals from accounts he was legally entitled to access. Normal withdrawals to the tune of nearly $200,000 the day after Mrs. Williams discovered his affair with her sister. Sophia countered. We have documentation of systematic financial misconduct that directly relates to both petitions before the court today. Judge Mercer looked intrigued. I'll hear your evidence, counselor. For the next hour, Sophia methodically presented our evidence of Derek's financial misconduct, from the siphoning of funds to the secret property purchase to the investment in the new law firm with Amanda. Derek's face grew increasingly pale as his schemes were exposed in excruciating detail. Then came the emails between Derek and Amanda dating back to before our last round of IVF. As Sophia read Derek's callous words about keeping me distracted with fertility treatments while draining my savings, gasps echoed through the courtroom. I kept my eyes fixed forward, refusing to give Derek the satisfaction of seeing my pain. When Sophia finished presenting our evidence, Judge Mercer turned to Townsend. Counselor, do you have any response to these serious allegations? Townsend conferred hurriedly with Derek, who was visibly sweating now. Your Honor, we dispute the characterization of these financial decisions. Mr. Williams was simply planning for his future in the event the marriage didn't work out. By secretly purchasing property and starting a business with his wife's sister while still married and pursuing fertility treatments with his wife. Judge Mercer's tone was incredulous. That stretches credibility beyond its breaking point. She turned to my parents. And I'm particularly troubled by your involvement in this matter. The financial connection between Mr. Williams and your construction company raises serious concerns about your motivations in this unusual child support petition. My father shifted uncomfortably. We only want what's best for all our children, Your Honor, including financially coercing your daughter to support a child conceived through her husband's affair with her sister. Judge Mercer's disapproval was palpable. At that moment, Amanda stood up, her hand protectively over her belly. Your Honor, if I may speak. The judge nodded reluctantly. Julia has always been jealous of me. Amanda began, her voice quavering for maximum effect. Our parents always favored her, gave her everything while I struggled. When Derek and I fell in love, it was genuine. We didn't mean to hurt Julia, but she's vindictive and wants to punish us by withholding financial support that would help our baby. My mother nodded vigorously in agreement while my father stared at the floor. The court will side with us. Amanda continued, growing bolder as she reached for Derek's hand. Julia's got nothing but jealousy. She couldn't give Derek a baby, and now she can't stand that I can. The courtroom fell silent. Judge Mercer looked at me. Mrs. Williams, would you like to respond? I stood slowly and approached the witness stand. After being sworn in, I took a deep breath and looked directly at my sister. I don't need to prove my innocence, I said calmly. I just need to prove they're guilty too. And we've done that today with evidence, not accusations. I turned to the judge. Your Honor, I never expected to find myself in this position. I worked hard my entire life, supported my husband through law school, contributed the majority of our household income, and paid for expensive fertility treatments while he was secretly planning a life with my sister. My voice remained steady as I continued. I didn't come here seeking vengeance. I came seeking justice. The financial fraud is documented. The betrayal is admitted. All I ask is for the court to recognize what has happened here and allow me to move forward with my life and my assets intact. Judge Mercer nodded thoughtfully. Thank you, Mrs. Williams. She turned to Sophia. Do you have any additional witnesses? Just one, Your Honor. We call Michael Reeves, private investigator. Michael took the stand and presented the final piece of our case, evidence that Derek had been systematically transferring funds from not just our joint accounts, but from my personal accounts as well, using passwords and access he had obtained during our marriage. The total amount misappropriated was over $850,000, including my inheritance from my grandmother. As Michael detailed the money trail leading directly to Derek and Amanda's new law firm and the loan to my father's construction company, I watched my family's faces. Derek was ashen. Amanda was crying silently. My mother looked confused, and my father, for the first time, looked ashamed. When all testimony concluded, Judge Mercer called for a brief recess. As we waited for her return, Derek approached me in the hallway away from our attorneys. "Julia, we can still settle this privately," he said urgently. "There's no need to air all this dirty laundry." I looked at him. This man I had loved, trusted, built a life with, and felt nothing but pity. "It's too late for that, Derek. You chose this path when you betrayed me. Now you get to face the consequences." When court resumed, Judge Mercer delivered her ruling with clear conviction. "Based on the overwhelming evidence presented today, I am dismissing the child support petition as frivolous and potentially sanctionable. No court would ever compel a woman to financially support a child conceived through her husband's affair regardless of the biological relationship." She continued, "As for the divorce, I am granting it on the grounds of adultery and financial misconduct. Mr. Williams will return all funds taken from joint accounts and Mrs. Williams' personal accounts plus interest. The Vermont property purchased with marital funds will be sold, and the proceeds awarded to Mrs. Williams. Mr. Williams will also be responsible for all legal fees incurred by Mrs. Williams in both these proceedings." Looking directly at Derek, she added, "Furthermore, I am referring evidence of potential financial fraud to the District Attorney's Office and the State Bar Association for review. Mr. Williams, your conduct may have professional consequences beyond this courtroom." As the full impact of the ruling sank in, Derek slumped in his chair, while Amanda burst into fresh tears. My parents sat frozen, the magnitude of their miscalculation evident in their stunned expressions. I felt no triumph, no joy in their defeat. Only relief that justice had been served and that I could finally begin to rebuild my life from the ashes of their betrayal. As we left the courtroom, Sophia squeezed my arm. "You did it, Julia. You stood your ground and won." I nodded, tears finally breaking through my composed facade. "We did it," I corrected her. "I couldn't have done this alone." For the first time in months, I walked out of the courthouse with my head held high, no longer a victim, but a survivor. The year following the court case was one of both healing and reinvention. The judge's ruling was just the beginning of my journey toward rebuilding my life after such profound betrayal. Derek faced serious professional consequences as a result of his actions. The State Bar Association launched an investigation into his financial misconduct, and he was eventually suspended from practicing law for 2 years. The new firm he had started with Amanda collapsed before it even properly opened. The district attorney ultimately declined to pursue criminal charges, but the professional damage was done. My father's construction company was forced to repay the loan from Derek's LLC, pushing it to the brink of bankruptcy. My parents sold their home of 30 years and downsized to a small condo to stay afloat financially. The experience was humbling for them in ways I could never have orchestrated. Amanda gave birth to a baby boy 6 months after the court hearing. She named him Nathan. Despite everything, sometimes I found myself wondering about this child, my nephew, who was innocent in all of this. But I maintained my distance, knowing boundaries were essential for my own healing. As for me, I took an extended leave from my law firm. The partners were eager to welcome me back after news of the court ruling spread through Boston's legal community, but I needed time to decide what I truly wanted for my future. The betrayal had shaken my foundations, but also freed me from the expectations and patterns that had defined my life for so long. I used some of the returned funds to travel, something I'd always wanted to do but had postponed for career advancement and fertility treatments. I spent a month in Italy, 2 weeks in Japan, and 3 weeks hiking the Pacific Crest Trail. Each journey helped me reconnect with myself and envision possibilities beyond the narrow path I'd previously followed. During this time, Michael and I stayed in touch. What began as professional updates about the financial recovery process gradually evolved into personal conversations, shared meals, and eventually tentative dating. Unlike Derek's intense pursuit in law school, this relationship developed slowly, built on a foundation of genuine respect and shared values. "I admired how you handled everything," Michael told me one evening as we walked along the Charles River. "Your strength, your dignity, even when they tried to break you." "I didn't feel strong," I admitted. "Most days I was just trying to survive." "That's what real strength looks like," he said, taking my hand. "Not the absence of pain or fear, but continuing despite them. 6 months after my divorce was finalized, I received an unexpected call from my mother. We hadn't spoken since the courtroom, though she had left several voicemails that I wasn't ready to respond to. "Julia," she began hesitantly when I answered. "I don't know if you're willing to hear this, but I need to say it. I'm sorry. What we did was wrong. All of it." Her voice broke, and for a moment I heard genuine remorse. "Your father and I have been in counseling. We're trying to understand how we could have made such terrible choices, how we could have hurt you so deeply." I remained silent, not ready to offer forgiveness, but willing to listen. "We always thought we were treating you and Amanda equally," she continued, "but we realize now that we consistently prioritized her needs and feelings over yours because she seemed more vulnerable. We didn't see your vulnerability because you were always so competent, so self-sufficient." "That doesn't excuse taking Derek's side," I finally said, "or trying to force me to financially support their child." "No, it doesn't," she agreed. "Nothing excuses that. We were wrong, Julia. Completely wrong. And while I don't expect your forgiveness, I want you to know that we recognize our failure as parents." That conversation didn't instantly heal the rift between us, but it opened a door that I had thought permanently closed. Over the following months, my parents and I began a careful, tentative reconciliation process. It was slow and often painful, requiring brutal honesty on all sides. We worked with a family therapist who specialized in estrangement and reconciliation. My relationship with Amanda remained severed. Some betrayals cut too deep for repair, and I accepted that maintaining distance from her was necessary for my well-being. My parents respected this boundary, never pushing for a reconciliation or bringing Amanda to our carefully scheduled meetings. 9 months after the court case, I made two significant decisions about my future. First, I would not return to my previous firm. Instead, I used part of my settlement to start my own boutique practice, specializing in representing women in complex divorce cases, particularly those involving financial misconduct and betrayal. I want to use what happened to me to help others. I told Sophia, who enthusiastically agreed to join my new firm as a partner. There are too many women who don't have the resources or knowledge to fight back when they're being financially abused within their marriages. My second decision was to say yes when Michael proposed. Our relationship had deepened naturally over time, built on mutual respect, shared values, and genuine love. Unlike my marriage to Derek, this relationship didn't feel like a strategic partnership or a checked box on my life plan. It felt like coming home to myself while connecting deeply with another person. We married in a small ceremony on the beach in Cape Cod, attended only by our closest friends and, somewhat surprisingly, my parents. As the sun set over the Atlantic, I exchanged vows with a man who had seen me at my most vulnerable and still found me worthy of love and respect. "I never thought I'd trust again," I told him during our first dance. "You showed me that not everyone will betray that trust. Some things break so we can rebuild them stronger," he replied, his arms secure around me. "You didn't just survive, Julia. You transformed." That transformation extended beyond my personal relationships. My new law firm quickly gained a reputation for fierce advocacy coupled with genuine compassion. I developed a sliding scale fee structure to ensure that women without significant financial resources could still access quality representation. And I started a foundation that provided grants for legal fees to women trapped in abusive marriages due to financial constraints. The pain of Derek and Amanda's betrayal never completely disappeared. There were still nights when I would wake up replaying the moment I discovered them together, or remembering the humiliation of that family dinner. But those moments became less frequent and less intense as I built a new life defined by my choices rather than their actions. On the 1-year anniversary of the court ruling, I received an email from Derek. "I'm sorry, Ma," was all it said. I deleted it without responding. His apology wasn't necessary for my healing, and I had no obligation to absolve him of his guilt. My forgiveness was a gift I chose to give myself, not him. The greatest lesson I learned through this ordeal was that family isn't defined by blood or legal documents. Family consists of the people who stand by you when the world falls apart, who see your value when others try to diminish it, who respect your boundaries and honor your truth. By that definition, I had built a new family, with Michael with colleagues who became friends with the women I helped through my practice and foundation. As for the betrayers, they had to live with the consequences of their choices, just as I had to live with the pain those choices caused me. The difference was that I had transformed my pain into purpose, my betrayal into a bridge to help others. In doing so, I found not just healing, but a deeper fulfillment than I had ever known in my previous life. Looking back from the vantage point of my new beginning, I realized that what they had intended to destroy me had instead set me free. Free to define success on my own terms. Free to build authentic relationships. Free to use my voice and my experience to create meaningful change. That freedom was the unexpected gift hidden within the wreckage of betrayal. A gift I had claimed not through vengeance, but through courage, resilience, and the unwavering belief that I deserved better than the story they had tried to write for me. Have you ever experienced betrayal from someone you trusted completely? How did you find the strength to rebuild afterward? Share your story in the comments below, and remember to like and subscribe if this resonated with you. Remember, sometimes the hardest chapters of our lives lead to the most beautiful transformations. Thank you for listening to my journey, and I hope it gives you courage if you're facing your own battles right now.